what is Isaac giving him? The blessing, but the covenant. It's the blessing of the covenant. This is the line, right? This is the blessing that God gave to Abraham, right? And to Isaac, and now Jacob. So even though he knows that he had been deceived, he's already pronounced his blessing. It's done. And so he's reinforcing as he's sending him away, because he might not see him again. As he's sending him away, he's remembering that the blessing that God has given. All right? So he goes, he sends him away to Laban. Who's Laban? So it's Jacob's uncle, right? Rebekah's brother. We heard about him before when Abraham's servant went to go try to find a wife back in the land of the family. So Laban's going to pop back up here in a big way in a little bit. So he goes, sends him to his son's uncle, his brother-in-law, to go and find a wife from his household. Okay, so there we go. Now, a little interlude here. Now Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Paddan-aram to take a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he directed him, "You must not take a wife from the Canaanite women." And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother and gone to Paddan-aram. So probably for this sending, like this blessing and sending, would be a thing like where everybody would come and be there. It's like a big sending away ceremony kind of thing. So Esau's there. He's seeing, he's listening to what's happening too. And Jacob's instruction he's given by Isaac is you need to go find a wife not like these Canaanite women. So when Esau saw that the Canaanite women did not please Isaac his father, Esau went to Ishmael and took his wife, beside the wives he had, Mahalath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth. So what does Esau do? What does it say? Because who is Esau already married to? 2 Canaanite women. He was married to 2 Canaanite women, and he goes here, he's, my father isn't a big fan, or says you can't get married, so what's his plan here? No. He's trying to get into his father's good graces because he's like, don't marry one of the Canaanite women. I'm going to go marry one of the Ishmaelites. So a descendant of Abraham's other son, Ishmael. So he's going to have a third wife. But this one should please his father because she's not one of the Canaanite women. So he's actually trying to do something to honor his father. Not that this is the best plan. Not that it's been the best plan from the get-go here, but this is what he does. Okay. So let's take a look here. Verse 10. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. Now I have the map up here so we can take a look here. So we've got the different areas that they've in Canaan here where they've been living, right? And then way up there in the top corner is Paddan-aram and Haran. So that's where he's going to be heading. So from here all the way up there. So down here, here's Beersheba, Kadesh down there, and some of these other villages that we're going to be hearing about here. Okay, so Jacob left Beersheba in the south, and not south, but like kind of, if you look kind of parallel where the bottom of the Dead Sea is. So Beersheba there, he's heading up north to Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there that night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed. And behold, there was a ladder or stairway set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and to your offspring. Your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. and in you and in your offspring shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. For I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." And he was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." So, taking a look at this dream, this divine dream that Jacob has here, right? What's the scenario? What's he see? So there's this ladder or this stairway, right? And what are the angels doing? So going up and down. So they're in motion, right? The angels aren't standing still. So these angels, these ones that are divine messengers, workers in God's will, going out and coming up, going up, all this stuff. So we have here, if you've heard of Jacob's ladder, there you go. Jacob's ladder or the stairway could be either of those things. And then verse 13, behold, where it says the Lord stood above it, right? We see God in heaven, but the Hebrew there could also read, the Lord stood beside him. So whether it's at the top, which it could be, right, God in heaven, or beside him, because what's God saying to him? And again, this is one of those instances where this could be the pre-incarnate Christ, the second person of the Trinity, interacting with creation, because that's oftentimes what we see is that Jesus, before taking on flesh, before being Jesus, God the Son, who's eternal, interacting with the people of his creation. So, but anyway, it's God. It's God interacting and saying, "I'm going to be," what? Verse 15. "I am with you," right? "I'm with you, I'm going to be with you." And he's repeating the covenant, that blessing that he's going to make a great nation from him, that they're going to go to the north and south and east and west, and all the families of the earth shall be blessed through your offspring. So again, we're looking ahead, that this blessing is going to be coming through this family line here. So the promise that he'll be with him. Jacob wakes up and is amazed. Surely Yahweh is in this place, and I did not know it. How awesome is none other than the house of God, the gate of heaven. So this connection point between earth and heaven. So verse 18, early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil on the top of it. So why does he do that? What does it? Bless you. Why does he pour the oil on the stone? What is that act of? What's that? It's setting. Well, it's recognizing it's a holy place. That when you pour this oil on something, it's anointing. So he's anointing this stone, recognizing this is a holy place. When it says he takes it and sets it up for a pillar, it's kind of like we have tombstones, right, at a cemetery, or grave markers, right? It kind of the same kind of thing. So you take a rock, put it in the ground so it's pointing up like an elongated stone. So like it's a marker, like this is a special place. So he pours the oil on it. It's kind of that anointing, setting it apart. So marking that is this special place. He called the name of that place Bethel. Bethel is house of God. But the name of the city was Luz at first. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then the Lord, Yahweh, shall be my God, and this stone which I have set up for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that you give me, I will give a full tenth to you." So last week you guys noted something when Jacob was referring to Yahweh. How did he refer to Yahweh? The Lord, your God. And now he's saying the Lord will be my God. This recognition of who God is, that he's in this covenant line. So if you want to kind of get a sense on the map, Bethel was right around here. So he came up from Beersheba, got about a day's journey there. So right at the start, it looks like God is doing this. Yeah. This happens in other places earlier that we've already seen, but that's an example of, like a tenth, which is not a small portion, but it's also not a huge portion, but it's giving back to God, to God's service in thanksgiving. All right, we'll keep going. Verse 29, or chapter 29. Then Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. So he is now going all the way up towards Mesopotamia to Paddan Aram, up back there to Haran. As he looked, he saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying beside it. For out of that well the flocks were watered. The stone on the well's mouth was large, and when all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep and put the stone back in its place over the mouth of the well. Why would they do that? You keep the well safe, right? Well, you keep anything from falling in, but also keeping it safe so that it's not being used up necessarily by others. Okay, so they go do that, put this large rock on there. So Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where do you come from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." He said to them, "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" They said, "We know him." He said to them, "Is it well with him?" They said, "It is well. And see, Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the sheep." He said, "Behold, it is still high day. It is not time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go, pasture them." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together and the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep." All right, so they've got a little bit of a conversation here. And Jacob, who's coming into the area here, asks after who? His uncle, right? Laban, his uncle. Is he doing okay? Do you know him? Is he doing well? So, yeah, he is. And look, hey, here's his daughter. His daughter's coming with sheep. So she's a shepherdess coming with the sheep. And they have a little conversation about what the appropriate time for watering the sheep and then putting them out to pasture. Say, well, wait till all the flocks are here, and then we water them. Okay. So verse 9. While Jacob was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Now, as soon as Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. So Jacob, despite being a more domestic guy, was apparently pretty strong as well to take the stone, move it away. And so he waters the flock. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept aloud. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. So we have kind of this unexpected family reunion. He wasn't able to send her a FaceTime chat or something in advance to let her know that he was coming. And he just kind of happens upon her, right? So this is, again, divine provision. Because he gets to this area, he finds this well, and then who shows up there? Well, it's his cousin. The daughter of his uncle, the man that he was sent to go find there. So already, God is keeping his promise and making sure that he's connected and provided for. So as soon as Laban, his uncle, heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Jacob told Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, "Surely you are my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him a month. So he's been settled. There's that hospitality. He's where he's supposed to be. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my kinsman, should you therefore serve me for nothing?" So presumably in this time, Jacob is there. And Jacob, is he any hurry to get back to his brother Esau? Not so much. So he's looking to stay here for a while, good long while. And he's probably working for his uncle there. "Because you are my kinsman, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Okay, so just to get this now, right? So we got Rachel, you got Leah. Leah's the older sister. It says her eyes were weak, and this is kind of nebulous expression. We don't exactly know what it was. Could be like her eyes didn't really shine It didn't really jump out. Not necessarily that she needed glasses or something, but there was something about her that just wasn't the spark. But Rachel was beautiful in form and appearance. Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than I should give her to any other man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed him but a few days because of the love he had for her. 7 years, there you go. So serving to have Rachel's hand in marriage. After the 7 years, Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife that I may go into her, for my time is completed." So he wants to be married, wants to consummate the marriage. So Laban gathered together all the people of the place and made a feast. But in the evening, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her servant. And in the morning, behold, it was Leah. And Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you've done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? Why then have you deceived me?" Laban said, "It's not done so in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also in return for serving me another 7 years." Jacob did so, and he completed her week. Then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel to be her servant. So Jacob went into Rachel also, and he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served Laban for another 7 years. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens here. So Jacob is going to be there. He's going to work for his uncle, and his uncle's like, "Well, what do you want? What do you want your wages to be for serving?" He's like, "Well, your daughter. I want to marry your daughter, Rachel, specifically Rachel." And Laban's like, "Okay, cool, let's do that, because it's better that she marries you than somebody else. So I'm fine with that. Let's do that." Serve 7 years. Then they have the big wedding feast. But the wedding night, what does Laban do? Switcheroo. And Jacob, the trickster, gets tricked. So yeah.
The note in this Bible on verse 21 says,
Uh-huh.
if he would have specifically, he says, "Give me my wife." If he would have said, "Give me Rachel,"
Oh.
David would have had to have given him Rachel. He says, "Give me my wife."
Huh. Okay. I guess so. I don't know. I've never heard that before, but so that he is not, his problem is a lack of specificity, apparently. But Laban, as we see, not just now, but as we'll see in the chapters ahead too, he's kind of a tricky guy himself, right? Runs in the family or what? But so you've got this trick that's done here, and Jacob isn't aware of it until the morning. It's not like they had lighting like this necessarily, and there probably was a fair amount of wine and whatnot consumed. So Jacob wakes up. He finds out that he's been tricked, and Laban says, "Well, hey, in our country, the firstborn has to be married off before the second. Again, a thing with the firstborn and then the younger, right? So, not right that the younger be married first. So, tell you what, have your week, your kind of like honeymoon week, with the older sister Leah, and then we'll give you Rachel to be your wife." So within a week, Jacob has his second wife, the one that he intended in the first place, but with Rachel. So then he has the two wives, and then the two notes there, Laban gives the female servants, so kind of like maid servants given as part of like a dowry or a gift like that for supporting the daughters. So Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah, and had to work 7 more years for Rachel. Yep. Now, okay, so again, this is the next part of stuff we're going to be hearing is happening over this time too. It's not like then there were 7 years and all of a sudden they started having kids, but so during this time. Jacob's children, starting verse 31. When the Lord saw that Leah was hated, or another way we could say it is that she was not loved. So because Jacob is loving Rachel, but the Lord sees that Rachel is not loved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, because the Lord has looked upon my affliction, for now my husband will love me. He's going to love me because I've given him a son, right? She conceived again and bore a son and said, because the Lord has heard that I am hated, he has given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. The Lord hears. So 2 sons, right? So then husband has to love me because I've given him 2 sons. Again, she conceived and bore a son and said, now this time my husband will be attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son and said, this time I will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah. Then she ceased bearing. 4 sons, right? So Jacob's got to love her because she's given him 4 sons. And what has Rebekah given him? Or not, what has Rachel given him? Nothing. No sons. No children. All right. When Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she envied her sister. Again, we see this thing where there's this tension going on in the families, this rivalry. We saw it way back with Grandma Sarah, right, and Hagar. Back then, there was kind of maybe this blissful period with Isaac and Rebekah where there's just one husband, one wife, and then it goes awry with their kids again. But we've got this, so this tension there. So she says to Jacob, give me children or I shall die. You got to imagine Jacob hasn't exactly been disregarding her in that front. It's not like he's not been trying. So he says, am I in the place of God who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? Then she said, here is my servant Bilhah. Go into her so that she may give birth on my behalf, that even I may have children through her. So she gave her servant Bilhah his wife, and Jacob went into her, and Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. God has judged me, Rachel says, and also heard my voice and given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, with mighty wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister and have prevailed. So she called his name Naphtali. So, all right, does this plan sound familiar? Does it sound like a good plan in retrospect? No. This is not a good plan. This is again people trying to like, well, God said we'll do this, so here's how God's going to do this and how I make it happen. So this again will not be good down the line. But Rachel, claims the children through her surrogate as her own. So verse 9, when Leah saw that she had ceased bearing children, she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Why not do this some more? Can't go badly. Then Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son, and Leah said, good fortune has come. So she called his name Gad. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son, and Leah said, happy am I, for women have called me happy. So she called his name Asher. In the days of wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But she said to her, is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also? Rachel said, then he may lie with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. So Jacob may lie with you, Rachel, or with you, Leah, in exchange for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob came from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, you must come in to me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. Okay. This is the family dynamic here. So Jacob lay with her that night, and God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, God has given me my wages because I gave my servant to my husband. So she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and she bore Jacob a sixth son. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good endowment. Now my husband will honor me because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zebulun. Afterwards she bore a daughter and called her name Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel. Rachel, right? Rachel who was barren. And God listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, may the Lord add to me another son. So Joseph is, may he add, but it also sounds like taken away. So he's taken away my reproach. He's added to me another son, Joseph. So what do you think about them apples? This can't go badly.
It's interesting that two of Leah's sons,
Yeah,
Levi and Judah,
yeah.
are the ones that God sets apart when they become the tribes of Israel.
And we'll see as we go, because that's, if you've been paying attention, right? These are the names of the tribes. So descendants of these sons of Jacob. And so, yeah, as we see kind of maybe in their actions later on too, those things that are going to be related to how those tribes are set apart. Okay, so we've got through 4 different women, all these sons. And a daughter, lest we forget Dinah. So she's in there too. And then Joseph, the firstborn of Rachel, the beloved wife. Yeah. Mandrakes, like a produce, like plant. I'm trying to. I think we still have mandrakes today, right? So I don't know if it was something like they were going to be using for cooking. I didn't think that they were. They're not cooking. They're either medicinal or like aromatic. I think that's it. So like you could do like a perfume. Yeah. There you go. Okay. Oh. There you go. Okay. Okay, so Rachel wants the mandrakes as an aphrodisiac / fertility supplement. There you go. Good question. Don't eat them. Don't eat them. So, okay. So there you go. So she wants that. That's good stuff. These Bible study Bible notes come in handy. Okay. Okay, should we keep going? Okay. Verse 25. As soon as Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go to my own home and my country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you that I may go, for you know the service that I have given you. So we're at 7 years plus. So, that's true, 14 total. So 7 years after he's been married to these 2 women. So, and he's got all these kids. So he's ready to head back home 14 years after leaving home. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, that I may go, for you know the service I have given you. But Laban said to him, if I have found favor in your sight, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. Name your wages, and I will give it. Jacob said to him, you yourself know how I have served you and how your livestock has fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it has increased abundantly. The Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. But now when shall I provide for my own household also? He said, what shall I give you? Jacob said, you should not give me anything. If you will do this for me, I will again pasture your flock and keep it. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from it every speckled and spotted sheep and every black lamb and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And they shall be my wages. So my honesty will answer for me later when you come back to look into my wages with you. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and black among the lambs, if found with me, shall be counted stolen. Laban said, good. Let it be as you have said. So what's the plan? So Jacob's going to head on his way, And for his wages, he's not going to go empty-handed, but with his wife, his children, and flocks. But what of the flocks is Jacob going to be taking? Anything that's like the spotted, the black lambs and goats, right? So he'll do that, and then so he'll go through, he'll pick those out, he'll take them with him, and then Laban can go check and just make sure, okay, these are all spotted, speckled. So if there's any that aren't, they're stolen. So, all right, Laban's like, solid plan. Let's do that. All right. Verse 35. But that day, Laban removed the male goats that were striped and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white on it, and every lamb that was black, and put them in the charge of his sons. And he set a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob pastured the rest of Laban's flock. So, what'd Laban do? Tricky trickster. Took him and set him away so that there aren't going to be any for Jacob to take. Okay. Verse 37, then Jacob took fresh sticks of poplar and almond and plane trees and peeled white streaks in them, exposing the white of the sticks. He set the sticks that he had peeled in front of the flocks in the troughs, that is, the watering places where the flocks came to drink. And since they bred when they came to drink, the flocks bred in front of the sticks. And so the flocks brought forth striped, speckled, and spotted. There was this thinking that while the flocks were mating, if they saw stuff that was striped or spotted, because that's like the sticks, right? They were striped or speckled. It's like if they were mating and they're seeing that stuff, then they're going to have speckled offspring. So he's doing this, kind of thinking, okay, well, this will do this, but kind of also marking them there. And Jacob separated the lambs and set the faces of the flocks toward the striped and all the black of the flock of Laban. He put his own droves apart and did not put them with Laban's flock. Whenever the stronger of the flock were breeding, Jacob would lay the sticks in the troughs before the eyes of the flock so they might breed among the sticks. But for the feebler of the flock, he would not lay them there. So the feebler would be Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. Thus the man increased greatly and had large flocks, female servants and male servants, camels and donkeys. So Jacob is he's being savvy in how he's doing this. He's like, okay, that's how we're going to do it. There we go. So Laban's getting what by the letter of the agreement is his. Jacob's getting many flocks, and that's great for Jacob. Chapter 31. Any questions so far? Okay. Jacob flees from Laban. Now, Jacob heard that the sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from what was our father's, he has gained all his wealth. They're getting a little jealous here, right? And Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him with favor as before. The Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your kindred, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where his flock was and said to them, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, that your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. The expression of the change 10 times is like continually, like he's continually changed my wages. But God did not permit him to harm me. If he said the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And if he said the striped shall be your wages, then all the flock bore striped. Thus God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. In the breeding season of the flock, I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream that the goats that mated with the flock were striped, spotted, and mottled. Then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. And he said, lift up your eyes and see, all the goats that mate with the flock are striped, spotted, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now arise, go out from this land and return to the land of your kindred. Then Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, is there any portion or inheritance left to us in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? For he has sold us, and he has indeed devoured our money. And all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. So the daughters are on board. They are ready to leave home and go with Jacob. So Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels. He drove away all his livestock, all his property that he had gained, the livestock in his possession that he had acquired in Paddan Aram, to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. And Jacob tricked Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he had intended to flee. He fled with all that he had and arose and crossed the Euphrates and set his face toward the hill country of Gilead. All right, so what's Jacob do? We're getting out of town. All right, while Laban is away for the shearing of his flocks, it's like, all right, get everybody up, get on camels, we're heading out. And so they go. He sends them all away, sends them ahead of him, and then they go. Doesn't tell his father-in-law that he's leaving with his daughters and his grandkids. And, all the stuff that he has acquired over time as well. All right, when it was told to Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsman with him and pursued him for 7 days and followed close after him into the hill country of Gilead. But God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night and said to him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." And Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen pitched tents in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done, that you have tricked me and driven away my daughters like captives of the sword? Why did you flee secretly and trick me and did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with mirth and songs, with tambourine and lyre? And why did you not permit me to kiss my sons and my daughters farewell? Now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' And now you have gone away because you have longed greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, and I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. Anyone with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what I have that is yours, and take it." Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Okay, so we have this thing. Laban finds out that his family, his son-in-law has taken his daughters, grandkids, and the flocks, headed out, and then they got like a head start. They catch up with them day by day by day. The seventh day they catch them, but God has spoken to Laban in a dream and said, "Don't mess with him. Don't say anything good or bad to him." Laban gets there, and Laban has probably some legitimate concerns here. Is like, you just took them away from me that I would never see them again. That's not right. We could have had like this big party. Whether or not he actually would have, we don't know. Whether we might have tried another trick, all possible. But he said also, "You've taken my household gods," so these idols that they would have as a worship thing. So Rachel stole them, unbeknownst to Jacob. Whether she thought she would take them and like have them to sell, or whether she would take them and thinking that they would give her and the family protection, which is not good. But she's taken them. So verse 33. Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two female servants, but he didn't find them. And he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel's saddle and sat on them. So whether like the saddles could come off the camels and then be like a nice convenient stool, I don't know, something like that. But so she's sitting on it. Laban felt all about the tent. So you imagine he's trying to find everything here, but didn't find them. And he said to her father, and Rachel said to her father, "Let not my lord be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the way of women is upon me." So he searched, but did not find the household gods. So, all right, so Rachel claims to be menstruating. She might not be telling the truth, but as it is, though, the deception is maintained. So Laban can't find anything, so he goes. Now, here's kind of the humor that's in this too, is that are these gods if somebody can just sit on them? Obviously not. So it's kind of it's making fun of the idolatry. But we've got this. We continue verse. Any questions at that point? It's kind of this little, yeah. Apparently not. And whether Laban had kind of like strayed, it sounds like, because he was so distraught about trying to find these household gods that apparently up and got lost. That he had gone away from Yahweh worship and was in this idolatry. So we'll see what happens when they get back to Canaan. All right. So Jacob then became angry and berated Laban. Jacob said to Laban, "What is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? For you have felt through all my goods. What have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my kinsman and your kinsman that we may decide between us two. These 20 years." So he's 14 years, right? And then 6 more years after wanting to head out and kind of building up these flocks. So 20 years I have served you. I have been with you. Your ewes, your female goats have not miscarried. I have not eaten the rams of your flock. Let me turn my page here. What was torn by wild beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself. From my hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was. By day the heat consumed me, the cold by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I have served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock. You have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God saw my affliction and the labor of my hands and rebuked you last night. Then Laban answered and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. But what can I do this day for these my daughters or for their children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. And Jacob said to his kinsmen, "Gather stones." They took stones and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jagar Jushuthah. Don't know if I got that one right. But Jacob called it Gilead. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." Therefore he named it Gilead and Mizpah, for he said, "The Lord watch between you and me when we are out of one another's sight. If you oppress my daughters, or if you take wives beside my daughters, although no one is with us, see, God is witness between you and me." And Laban said to Jacob, "See this heap and the pillar which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness, that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me to do harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us." So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob offered a sacrifice in the hill country and called his kinsmen to eat bread. They ate bread and spent the night in the hill country. Early in the morning, Laban rose and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned home. So all kinds of stuff going on in there. So any questions or thoughts on all that stuff going on? What was the point of the heap of rocks? Don't cross it. So it's a border. It's a marker. And what else is it? So there's that aspect. It's bearing witness to this covenant. That they're not going to mess with each other. That they can go and, as Laban is sending Jacob, that you don't take any other wives besides my daughters. You treat them well. So in this way, he is a father who cares for his daughters. He's caring for his grandkids. Even if they're going to be away from him, he wants to make sure that they are treated properly. All right, anything else? Any other questions at this point? Okay. Well, I think that's pretty good. We got more stuff that's going to be happening starting with chapter 32, so we'll get into that next week. We'll continue our journey through Genesis here. So some familiar stuff, some unfamiliar stuff maybe. Chapter 32, we'll start with. Oh, how many are we going to do next week? Let's see. Depends how much you guys want to talk about it. Oh, I think we can do 32 through 34. I don't think we're going to be able to get through 35, but because there's a lot that goes on there. Maybe we do 35 as well, but definitely 32 through 34. A lot happens. Okay, cool. Excellent. All right. Thank you.